I think so.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, whether you're here in person or you are joining us virtually today for our Building Your Future a grad school prep panel. My name is Kate Fuller. I am the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions at Bryn Mawr College. We are joined today with 4 fantastic panelists. So I'm going to introduce them, give a little bit of information about their professional background, and then we have some questions that came in from people as you registered, as well as just have some general graduate admissions process questions that we're going to go over. We are also monitoring the chat, so anyone who is joining us virtually, you're more than welcome to put your questions into the chat and we can go over them. And then for anyone who's here, feel free to also ask any questions. So we are joined by Latoya Walters. She is the Associate Director of Graduate and Professional School Recruitment at the University of Pittsburgh, where she leads strategic recruitment efforts across 14 schools and over 250 graduate programs. With more than 8 years of experience in higher education, Latoya specializes in building pipeline partnerships, designing inclusive recruitment strategies, and using data-driven approaches to support student access and enrollment. She is an active leader within the National Association of Graduate Admissions Professionals, currently serving on the conference and DEI committees, and is the Vice President of the Pennsylvania Association of Graduate Admissions Professionals. Latoya holds a Master's of Education and in Higher Education from the University of Pittsburgh and is certified in organizational leadership, intercultural competency, and diversity and inclusion. A passionate advocate for equity and education, she brings both strategic insight and hands-on experience to every conversation about graduate access, recruitment, and student success.
Thanks, you make me sound really good.
You are really good. And next to her, we have Katie Payne. She is the Director of Graduate Enrollment at Kutztown University in Pennsylvania. Since arriving in 2020, she has created a communication plan for all graduate programs, revitalized and maintained social media sites with relevant content, and established admissions policies and procedures. She has also increased applications and enrollment across 4 colleges by leveraging data and establishing new business planning models. Before Kutztown, Katie was the Director of Graduate Enrollment Management at McDaniel College in Maryland, the Associate Director of Adult and Graduate Admissions at Newman University, and held various positions at Drew University in the School of Graduate Studies. Katie holds a bachelor's degree from McDaniel College, a master's degree from Drew University, and is in her 2nd year of her doctoral degree at St. Peter's University. Katie often presents at national and local conferences on topics relating to graduate admissions marketing, international student fraud, and small office operations. Next up, we have Colin Hoover from McDaniel College. He is the admissions counselor who loves helping students find their path to graduate study. A former grad student himself, he earned his Master's of Divinity in 2019, is now pursuing a degree in clinical mental health counseling. Colin uses his experience to support applicants from all backgrounds. When he's not connecting with students, you can find him hiking, camping, and hanging out with his dog Velcro. One of my favorite things. And then finally, we have Dave Wolfington. Dave is the Senior Director of Graduate and Online Admissions in the School of Graduate and Professional Studies at Elizabethtown College, where he has served for the past 5 years. In his role, he leads recruitment and retention efforts for the college's graduate and online programs, including undergraduate degree completion, post-baccalaureate certificates, master's degrees, and alternate pathway programs tailored to adult learners. With over 18 years of experience in higher education admissions, Dave brings a deep understanding of enrollment strategies and student support. He holds a bachelor's degree of science and marketing from Shippensburg University. So that is our 4 panelists. So I think to kind of get us started and kick us off, one of the common questions that we had received in preparation for this panel was students who had said they are within their 3rd year and thinking about when should they start to submit their applications. And so for anyone on the panel, if you guys could weigh in and just whether it's thinking about starting the application process, or maybe when to start thinking about writing your personal statement or asking your references to serve as references or write letters of recommendation, but maybe some information or some advice about timing for starting the grad school process. So anyone feel free to jump in.
I don't mind starting us off.
Sure.
Okay, so again, I am kidding. It's going to vary is my overall answer, and I know that's not really an answer, but for some programs, there are strict deadlines that are going to be either in the fall of your senior year or, January, early spring of your senior year. And I think it's going to be a matter of, really what that program is, what that industry is, if it's going through a centralized application system as well. So some specific programs go through, for instance, MCAS, which is a medical CAS, centralized application system, or otherwise. PT is another one that you often hear. And those will have kind of funneled deadlines. So in your third year, you should be considering what your timeline is, working it backwards to where you are today, and figuring out what you need to get in order. Your transcripts are more than likely going to come last because you'll want the most up-to-date coursework that you're working on. Take this, third year of college to explore your options and visit graduate schools. So if you're even trying to narrow down your search and you don't know what it's going to look like, this is a really good opportunity because you can talk with them about the deadlines or other courses that you may need to take through your undergraduate career in order to prepare yourself for the graduate work you're about to embark on. What else do you guys have to offer?
I'll add, I think it's really important for you to start thinking about references ahead of time as well. So just knowing you're going to need references. So start thinking about who are those professors that you've already built relationships with. Who are those professional people that you've actually encountered that you think know you pretty well that can speak on the relationship that they have with you or your work ethic. Just start thinking about that ahead of time too, and you can just start making a list for yourself so you can see who would be able to speak to and be able to represent you best for the programs that you are looking to apply to. So definitely would say letters of recommendation and people who could be your recommenders. You can start doing that as early as you can to just start making yourself a list and get prepared and kind of know what area they may be able to cover for you. The other thing is to keeping in touch with them. So if you know there's somebody who you had your freshman or sophomore year, you don't want to wait until your senior year to ask them for the reference and you haven't talked to them for 2-3 years, right? So you want to build those relationships with them, continue to connect with them, tell them what's happening, what's going on with you, so that when it's time for them to write that letter, it's easy peasy for them.
Yeah, I can also just add a few nuggets. I think, yeah, it definitely varies on the program. But it doesn't have to be a guessing game, right? Like we all have, admissions teams, ask the admissions team, what do you recommend as the appropriate timeline? And I would even take it a step further. We also have active students, right? So consulting with an active student and asking them their personal experience, when did you start applying? What was your steps like? Any tips, any recommendations, things of that nature, I think can go a long way.
With regard to that, kind of a piece of a lot of applications are personal statements or writing samples. Do you guys have any tips about writing compelling personal statements that might be helpful within your application?
Can I start this one?
Absolutely.
So one, read your prompt. So, most applications, they are telling you what they are looking for when they're asking you about that statement. You want to make sure you answer the question. Not every personal statement that you write is going to be the same one that needs to be written for each one of your applications. So that is probably one of the biggest things I will say admissions people are really looking for is if you actually answer the question. So one, definitely look at the question, make sure you're answering that question. But I think that's another thing that you can start building and kind of pointing out your highlights and things that you would like to think about early as well. So like things that you know that you've accomplished that you want to be able to highlight, especially based on the program, right? So if you've done something that you know is very much related to the program that you're looking at, you want to start jotting those type of things down, take some notes so that you can get ready for it later. But biggest takeaway is make sure you answer the question for sure.
I'm gonna jump on that. So where do you find the question? And that can vary for each school, each application system. So some schools and some programs will have it listed directly on their program page as part of the list of application materials. Some will put it directly into the application itself. So when you choose your program, it might like show up with these are the other things to get to. Some, if you're going through the centralized application system, will have it listed in there. Besides answering the prompt, read it over. And make sure, you have somebody else read it over too. Your mother is always going to love what you do because she's very supportive of you. But, you know, have a trusted professor read it over, go to your career center and review that as well. I like that. Anything else?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I love that we call it a personal statement, and not an essay because it's personal. And so what I always tell students is, you know, a transcript can only tell us so much. A resume can tell us maybe a little bit more, but really we want to know you, right? We want to get to know the student who's applying. So tell us about, you know, your passion. Tell us about why you're interested in, you know, the program that you're interested in and what's drawing you to that career path. Give us some context maybe for some things that we might find, maybe some areas of struggle, areas of growth, things like that. I think for schools, especially who practice a more holistic approach to admissions, that's going to be really important to give us an idea of who you are and what's driving you. In addition to, of course, answering the prompt and everything everybody else has said.
Yeah, the only thing I will add, I agree with all of the above that's been said. Just be very careful with AI.
Yeah.
Admissions can smell it a mile away, just for the record, whoever I'm speaking to right now. It's okay to use it as a guide, as a, you know, here are some things I might want to cover, some recommendations, some talking points, but it needs to be from you. I think that's the most, and personalizing it, I completely agree. But just be very, very careful about using it. But yeah, you know, just personalizing, sharing your story. I think those are the most compelling to read. You know, when it kind of pulls a little bit on the heartstrings, maybe you have a tough story or a tough situation or any kind of hardship and things of that nature that you've been up against and you've overcome it. You know, that can be very powerful. So that can go a long way, but yeah, those would be additional nuggets I would add in.
I'm gonna throw in one more, and I think that like all of the pieces that we've covered also kind of talk to the fit. So, I mean, as much as you're looking for the program that fits you, the program, maybe a cohort is looking for the people that fit them and the university, right? We want to make sure that you are adhering to the mission. Like we all value our university missions. And so we want to make sure that you're not enrolling in, say, a Master of Divinity program because you want to make a ton of money. You know, we want to make sure that you're actually getting to the heart of why you want to pursue that program. So talk about that. It's okay to talk about the features, avoiding AI completely, but the personality of it all and making sure that it's fitting for that school. It's okay to incorporate the why to make sure that they know why you're applying.
I love this theme of fit and finding the personal aspects of what program, you know, is right for you. And so much of the application process, we're considering students as a fit for our program, but also at the same time, thinking about it from the student perspective, you might be spending 2, 3, 4 years at this institution, this college, university. And so Dave, earlier you had mentioned about speaking with current students. Are there recommendations that you all would give students as you're considering thinking about where you might see yourself spending the next few years of your education? Are there different things, whether it is speaking with current students or anything of making some sort of relationship and seeing if one of these schools is a good fit for you personally? Do you have any recommendations for students as they start to explore schools of making connections with, whether it's the admissions office or students, so kind of figuring out, is this the right fit for me?
Yeah, I would say one of the things, so I'm, as an admissions counselor, I also have the unique perspective of also being a graduate student at the school that I'm working for. And so most of our graduate programs are fully online, which is a different, you know, it's a unique perspective, and it doesn't work for everyone. And I think, you know, want to be very clear about that and honest about that. And one of the things that I love to do is just speak from my perspective as a student as well. And I think it's important to ask questions. If you can ask if you can be connected to a current student, because the more you learn about what that education is going to look like from a day-to-day perspective. You know, what is the platform you're using? Are you in class? Is it synchronous? Is it asynchronous? All of that is going to matter for you. Like, you need to know how you learn. You need to know how you succeed and how you thrive. And so learning that information from a current student is probably the best way to do it. But yeah.
You bring up an excellent point about knowing how you learn.
Mhm.
And I think some people think that they can do online learning, or some people can make the in-person swing happen. And asking some of those questions and asking a little bit more deeply of what are the support systems
Yeah.
there, so that you understand how you're going to learn in that new environment to you, is also a great question to ask.
I'll add two things. So one, and of course, online is a little bit different, but if you are thinking about going to a grad school and you think that this is one of your top schools, I 100% recommend visiting at some point if you can. I do understand there are situations where you cannot. Some schools do have some like virtual tours, but you wanna, going back to that fit, you wanna see if this is the vibe that you're looking for, or they have the opportunities that you're looking for moving forward. So like, I always tell students who are specifically looking in business, do they have opportunities for you to connect with businesses? What does that look like after you graduate? So just thinking about that fit and like looking at that specific school and what they have to offer to you, a little bit of what Kitty was talking about. And the other thing I will say too is, especially if you are looking at PhD level programs, we all know faculty is a huge part of that, and finding the right faculty fit. So also being able to do your research, or even talk to admissions officers, they're more than welcome to help you kind of connect with faculty, but being able to find that specific fit based off that PhD program, because that is so much based off the faculty that you'll be working with specifically.
And you had mentioned about the idea of support and ongoing support, not only throughout the application process, but also thinking about that once you are a full-time student in one of these programs, thinking about what kind of ongoing support, and for sometimes it is even also as an alumni. So maybe if you guys could just talk a little bit about the different kinds of ongoing student supports that maybe students should be considering when they are thinking about what grad program might be the right fit for them. What kinds of supports should they maybe be considering that would be a current student support to keep an eye out for?
Yeah, writing centers that are open to all students, I think, is just so important. And not just peer tutoring, but really like we need refreshers. Somebody may have done an MLA style of writing in their undergraduate, but now graduate expects APA style. What does that mean? What does that look like? Can somebody please offer me a workshop on a course? So I think keeping that kind of, that's the basic, because that's going to get you through every single course, the writing basics. But then, I mean, you know, your health services are important to you too. And you do have an advisor that's assigned specifically to you that is program ready. I think those are some of the like basic lines of them. That you guys might have other ones that are important.
Yeah, I was gonna leave with definitely the personalized advising. We're probably similar to McDaniel, where we have a lot of our programs 100% online. So just being able to have that direct contact with somebody to be a soundboard, ping things off of, ask questions. But they're the gateway to the resources as well. So you might not know what you don't know. So, you know, asking those questions, and we do our best in admissions to cover them and kind of prepare for, you know, that handoff from acceptance, and then, okay, hand off to our academic advising team. And they're there to, you know, onboard each student and be that go-to contact. But, you know, there should be, I would say, a majority of colleges, there should be some kind of tutoring resource. Like we have a 24/7 tutoring.com contract. So at any point, you know, papers and different subject matter, you know, being able to tutor the students. And then, yeah, I think, you know, beyond that, even though you might be in an online atmosphere, just doing your best to try and connect with other students, because, you know, you definitely want to have that ability to, you know, and that helps with, you know, some group work and some things you might implement into different courses and programs as an online student. But, you know, just having somebody else to, you know, share maybe some similar scenarios and things you might be experiencing, And I know E-Town has at least, gotten into counseling services and then really addressing, the mental health piece of it. And this can be a lot. This is a big, a big venture to take on in finishing or completing a graduate degree. So, yeah, those would be, definitely some ones that really start with asking what's out there from a variety of people, and you might get a few different answers.
I think a big thing too, that a lot of times students will talk about throughout the grad process is the fact that we're balancing a lot of different pieces, not only just thinking about your education, but also the fact that you might be somebody who is working full-time or part-time or have family obligations and caretaking obligations. So anything that you guys have in terms of advice about kind of thinking about that process of balancing not only maybe a full-time or a part-time program, but also potentially working full-time or, some programs have internships of just kind of thinking about balancing responsibilities when it comes to thinking about graduate school.
Can I just say personally, when I did my master's, I was also working full-time and had a part-time job. And I tried to do something else. It was crazy. And I will say, and this is one thing I was gonna ask about resources, if it was not for my mentor for my graduate program, I don't think I would have made it through. Because they were the person who really pushed me like, Latoya, you can do this, you've got this, you just need to do this. And it was like literally just that coaching along that you needed. Because, there's gonna be times when work gets absolutely crazy, but you still have a paper that's due or a presentation that's due. So like trying to do that balancing act can be difficult. So I will say finding mentors or you were even saying about finding other people in your program to be able to connect with. I had somebody in my program who she was type A, and she wrote on my calendar when it was time for all my assignments to be due. She also gave me a warning like 72 hours ahead of time to say, hey, this is still due. She would even block out time on my calendar that said, Latoya, you need to work on this. And like, again, she should not have had to do all that, right? But I appreciated having a partner during this program who was like, no, you got this, girl. Like, come on, I got you too. So like having those relationships with people to kind of help you and build you and make sure that you can continue to keep going. Because I can't lie, I turned in my last paper for my master's program like 2-3 hours before I walked across the stage, because I was like, what we are not about to do is have any more of this to do after I walk across this stage. So just knowing that like you have those support systems to kind of help you get through, but also think about, I will say this is the thing I probably struggle with, I struggle with this even right now, is time management. So knowing when you are going into this program, when you are going into a program that you do need to really look at that time management and putting time aside, it is not easy, and I still have not mastered it. But having those partners, those relationships, having those mentors to be able to help you and help, like if she didn't put that stuff on my calendar, I don't think I would have remembered what was happening. So knowing what you need to be able to get yourself through a program too. So it is definitely a balancing act, but I think teamwork is such a big part when you have just life hitting you at the same time. So
And like you have hit on so many different things that I think that we then tell our students that are either traditional undergrad students or adults returning, the time management, the balance, the finding your network. But sometimes it's also letting things go, right? So you might not be able to serve on that PTO committee for the next 2 years. That's going to be okay. Or you might not be able to volunteer in a position. That's going to be okay. You have to give yourself a little bit of grace in order to get this piece done in life. And back to that like third year in college student who's asking like what to take, what steps to take, ask your program. So when you're doing that deep dig, what will it mean when I go into my internship? Does this mean I can have a job? Does it allow me to have a 9-to-5 job or a after hours job? I used to recruit for a physical therapy program where I had to tell people like the third year in your physical therapy program, you're not going to do anything. You won't even empty the dishwasher at home, right? And so you ask those really difficult questions so then you can go back to your home support system, whatever that looks like. Everybody has a different home support system, and tell them realistically, if I'm going to embark on this, I also need your help. And it's a tough ask sometimes, but it's not going to be a forever ask. So giving yourself grace and then asking for help. You're currently enrolled.
Yeah, I feel like I can speak in my capacity as a student more than anything. I would echo everything that was just said. I think the one thing like that I'll say is like, it can be done.
Yeah.
Like it can be done. It can feel daunting. I have, so when I did my first master's, it was a traditional full-time in-person residential master's program, and I was working full-time, and it was a lot. And now I'm in a much different program, online program. It's structured where we take one class at a time for 8 weeks, and then we're moving on to the next class. So it's much more manageable. So I think it's knowing the expectations of your program, you know, looking as you're in that kind of discovery research process, what's going to work for you. Also knowing you might have to make sacrifices, but I think a lot of that is just knowing yourself too. It's a lot of, you know, what's going to work for you. And but graduate programs come in all shapes and sizes, all different, you know, different types of delivery formats and things like that. So I think a lot of that comes back to just knowing what's going to work best for you.
Yeah, and I'll just add again, to go back to talking to current students, you can talk to current students a variety of things, including this, where finding out realistic expectations for, you know, time commitment. So it's easy to say, yeah, work on your time management skills, but what does that mean, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I gotta get better at time management. All right, great, yeah. So, you know, it's not gonna be easy, but it'll be worth it, I think is the biggest mantra to kind of get across. But talking to current students, saying, okay, realistically, what can I expect? Because we can say, yeah, it can range from, you know, maybe 10 to 20 hours a week, depending on the class. But let's talk to somebody that has actually been through it, in it. What does it actually look like? And now we can say, okay, realistically, I can expect this. Well, now let's go back to the boss at work. Let's go back to our support system that we have in our home life, and have those conversations. And like, look, you know, talking to your boss and being upfront, like, look, I want to advance myself. I want to grow in this company. I want to achieve this degree to do X, Y, Z. You know, maybe we can work something out for some flexibility, maybe the last hour or half hour, wherever you can find little nuggets of time, I think is going to be extremely important, and how you maximize those pockets of time. And then, yeah, your support system, whatever that might look like. I know it's not, you know, it can be low, it can be high. It varies from student to student, but being able to then have those hard conversations and say, hey, I'm gonna need your help in this, this, and this. I'm gonna need to delegate what I normally do at this time of the week and things, you know, really mapping things out fully. You know, maybe not to the level of Toya's calendar. It is. And, you know, so it's, somebody else had told me a couple years ago, it's, you know, oh, my to-do list is growing. It's like, but what are you taking off of your to-do list, right? So you do need to make some sacrifices at the end of the day, to be able to make it work. But again, it's a season. I think that's also an important thing to look at. It's a season of time. You make some sacrifices, and it will help you long term.
I think I'll add, it's a season and it's an investment. It's an investment in yourself and in you. So
Yeah.
I think seeing it that way helps.
I think a big thing we always talk about with our students too is that there's also not one right way to graduate school.
Yep.
Again, to that point of personalize and individualize that, just because you're doing it one way, that may not necessarily work for me, so I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. That doesn't mean that it's wrong or right, it's just everyone will do it on their own time. So it's okay if you look to the person to your right and to your left and go, wow, this is totally different. Am I doing something wrong? No, that everyone's just doing it their own different, more personal way. So I want to pause quickly because I think I saw some questions come in from the chat. So I want to make sure that there's anything that we've already talked about that people wanted to clarify or have follow-up questions before we kind of move into a different question.
Sure. So one of the questions that came through was kind of along the lines of what you were just talking about. What makes an applicant stand out to admissions? Obviously, there was talk about the personal statement, but are there other factors to consider when applying to a program?
Again, I think it depends, I mean, obviously on the program, right? We're just gonna put that out there, that blanket statement out there. If you're looking at the application requirements, or if you're looking at a standard. So a lot of our programs have industry, what are called industry accreditations, and that means that another governing body has determined that students who are eligible for this program or can progress through this program have to meet these specific standards. So it might mean that a specific GPA has to be met. Well, sometimes we really can't waver on that. But again, back to the holistic approach, we might not be looking completely at that. So an outstanding person would be that applicant who has, maybe some prior work experience that's required. Specifically in the industry, or their letters of recommendation are tying in how they might not have that directly applicable. Maybe they work for an ice cream stand, but that time at the ice cream stand, they were volunteering this time, they were jumping in with that, they followed directions, great, they jumped in with the team player then. So you're still speaking to the aspects that we're looking for. Again, back to your writing, it hits on the questions and the prompts. And you haven't just reused it as a template that you really like this school because the trees are this color, right? And there aren't any trees, like making sure that you're hitting on different aspects of it so that it is a comprehensive picture of yourself. And that you are, elevating yourself to the best possible way that you can. If there's an interview involved, show up. I cannot stress that enough. Show up to the interview. If you don't think that this is the program for you anymore, then properly back out of that interview. Don't just ghost anybody, because we do make note of it. Not in a bad way, but just in a way that's like they didn't show interest. And go ahead and be prepared with your own questions during the interview. That also speaks volumes, because that also again tells the committees that you have an investment opportunity here, and how do we want to co-invest. Those are just some of the pieces that I think kind of hit that person a little bit higher, because they're showing what it means to them.
Oh, yeah, if you had some.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, if you're an active student, I think we brought up like the third year, maybe finishing your junior year, about to enter your senior year. I go back to just ask what is the admissions committee looking for in a good application for X program? You're gonna get some good feedback. And I think, any way you can get involved is important, and any way you can get involved with leadership opportunities can be applicable to any graduate program, no matter what it is. Yes, sometimes it's cut and dry with GPAs, and other times it's not. So I would encourage you to not remove yourself from an application or a program because you don't think you qualify. We have GPA waivers for certain programs, and there's a little bit of wiggle room. So don't assume, I think is some good feedback there. But asking, getting involved, internship opportunities and experiences for, again, active students. If you're thinking about maybe getting into the workforce and then maybe doing a graduate program afterwards or simultaneously, just your general work experience is definitely going to be weighed positively. So those would be some off the top of my head.
And I'll add with all of that, your resume. I think I've seen a lot of resumes, some good and some, so what I would say is use the resources available to you. If you are a current student, your career centers, the resources that can help you write a good resume, and you might say, I'm a sophomore or junior in college, what am I going to put on my resume? I bet there are things you can put on your resume, right? So those leadership opportunities, those internship opportunities, get creative and get help. And I would say putting together a good resume, again, it goes back to giving us that bigger picture, is really important.
I'll also add I am a terrible person at saying what I'm good at. So if somebody asks me, I'm sorry, that they're like, what are you good at? Tell us about your strengths. I am the absolute worst. I can tell you about anybody else's, but I'm way too critical on myself to really truly see my own strengths. So I use others to do that, like people that I've worked with or gone to school with, like, hey, what are some of those things? And they're usually pretty honest with you too, which is nice. So you kind of know what those strengths are that you can kind of write about as well. So I just say you also want to use that community that you do have to kind of learn a little bit more about you, that you may not see it too, if you're anything like me and just can't see it.
We're trained on to do that.
Yes, very true,
Yeah, I
very
think that's a
true,
great
yeah. Mhm.
So, two questions kind of related, when you talked about reaching out to current students. We had a question about how do you suggest doing that? How do you suggest reaching out to those current students? And then along the similar lines, reaching out to faculty, when is too early? What level of contact and what kind of rate of contact do you want to have with faculty members?
I'll kick us off. So students, I will say, reaching out to your admissions office at your school, usually they have those connections that can build you. A lot of schools have student ambassadors who literally part of their job is connecting with you, right? So being able to connect with those admissions office to find out if they're just literally letting them know, I'm interested in meeting with a student, talking with a student. We get those questions so often that I promise you it will not be something we've never heard of before and probably already have students on deck for it. And then when it comes to faculty, that is a very, very good question. So I think it can be different for different schools, different programs, different faculty, right? So I do also say utilize your admissions office to find out about it. For example, for my school, there are some faculty that you can go ahead and just email them with no problem. You don't even need to talk to us. They will respond with no problem. But then there's going to be others who are so involved in their research, or they may only be working during certain terms. So a lot of faculty don't work over the summer, right? So they may only be involved really in the fall and the spring. So connecting with your admissions office can also help you with those relationships, to have somebody within that school to be able to kind of help you connect as well. Anything else?
I think a lot of times events too, attending, whether
Yeah,
it's a virtual
absolutely.
event or in-person event. I mean, so many times we've had an information session and a panel, and it's a faculty panel, or it's an alumni panel, or it's a current student panel. And I would say, like, yeah, it's great to talk with us, but people you really want to hear from, right? People that are in the classroom, that are teaching, that are sitting within the classroom. So I think also, you know, everyone's schedule is incredibly busy, but if there is, whether it's an in-person or a virtual opportunity to get to connect with other people that are within the community already, that is also invaluable as well. So. Cool. Earlier, Colin had mentioned the idea of graduate school being an investment. And so we can't talk about grad school without talking about looking at the funding of graduate school, because that is a very big reality. Not only is it a personal investment, a time investment, but it's also a financial investment. And so kind of having a mix here of private institutions, public institutions, and just kind of thinking about when students start to think about funding their graduate education, what are maybe some things, whether it is scholarships or, research opportunities, or, thinking about federal funding, what are some of the ways that you see students funding their graduate education that students should consider as they start this process?
That's a really good question, and I think a really difficult one. And yes, and you already hit on some of the things. So that's part of the discovery process as well. So let's back it up a tiny bit and make sure that you need this degree. And if you don't need it, then don't do it right now, right? Like, then if you don't need it right now, just don't do it. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. We're all here to promote our graduate and professional studies programs, but it's just true right now. Then next, if you do need it, is it something that is supported by your employer? Are there employer benefits that you can look into? Those might be limited funds. I think most of us work with programs and maybe district agreements or employer agreements that will maybe offer a discount. So that's one question further. And then, believe it or not, graduate students are eligible for, up until 10 minutes ago, always some kind of aid. And so it's asking the what and the investment of that, but never maxing out a loan. So you are already paying your phone bill. Do not take out a loan at 6% to continue to pay for your tuition and your phone bill, right? Just pay for the thing that you need at that moment. And then we can talk about some private scholarships and graduate assistantships and so on, but there are also private companies that offer scholarships, big and small. I think that, it's gonna take some time, some research. It might be a $500 scholarship from Nabisco Crackers, but they exist. And it's a matter of kind of going out and finding them, and that can be a part-time job. But again, I would say like going about it smartly. So if you can't take 2 classes at a time, don't. Just don't. And most of our schools can adjust accordingly. If that means that you're not on a full-time, fast-paced program, then raise your hand to your sports services at your school and say, no, I can't do it this semester. I need to take a step back. It's on your terms. This degree is yours. This investment is yours. So do it on your terms. I know I'm missing other pieces because there were so many pieces.
I just wanted to piggyback on the looking and doing that research for scholarships too, because I do know times are different right now. And I know funding is one of the things that a lot of our students really do question anymore. But I think in the undergraduate world, we do such a good job of looking out for those scholarships. So once we get to grad, we don't think about that anymore, right? But really looking at those resources, like Kitty had said, to see what is out there for you in the grad realm, especially when it comes to those private organizations. I just think that's just one area that doesn't get touched as much as different opportunities. And of course, we definitely know you're going to ask us, and we are going to try to help you as much as we possibly can when it comes to that. But just like Kitty said, I like the options, right? Kind of knowing different options you have and doing that research to kind of see what are some opportunities that are available for you. Yeah, but don't, I really like what you said, Kitty, of if this is not it, no. Don't put yourself in any type of debt where it's not what you were looking for. Or one thing I'm very big about telling students, we don't have your program, this is not the place for you, right? You need to find where actually is going to get you where you want to be. So that you're not just doing things just to do it, but to actually reach those goals for sure.
I would say actually, a lot of the times I tell people to reverse homework. What's your dream job? Go out and find it. It might be listed in California and you live in Maine. That's okay, but what is it? And look at the requirements. Does it require an advanced degree? And if so, then awesome, great place to start. If it doesn't, pause. Because maybe that's something that will lead to a leadership opportunity or something that place will invest in you. Sorry, that was a diatribe.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, and when we're living in the times where everything is available to us at the click of a button. So we want it, we want it, we want it, we want it. It doesn't even have to be a no, it can just be a not yet, right? There are a ton of employers out there that are looking for talent. So, and they are willing to invest in that talent with, most of them that we've seen, and a lot more are coming on board with tuition reimbursements, and maybe you have to gut it out for 6 to 12 months to qualify for the company's policy, to then most of the time you'll see $5,250 per year, which is the IRS maximum in funding. Okay, well, maybe it's not $20,000 a year, but at least that could be 2-3 classes covered without having to go into additional debt. So those are some conversations you need to have again with your support system. Talk to the experts, get to financial aid department if they're willing to express and explain, if you have some undergrad loans, and then we're looking at graduate on top of it, just being able to consult with you and share other ways that we can or postpone pursuing of this at the immediate time, because there's not a lot of graduate funding out there. With what I mentioned, we kind of forget about it really at the graduate level. I know we've tried to make concerted efforts at E-Town to get advancement involved and try and, build some more scholarship funding for graduate students, because we get it. There's, it's just not as prevalent as it is at the undergrad level. We've taken a step further. We built our own, referral program to allow students to earn free credits when they refer, others to come into the program. So you can kind of almost build your own scholarship program to earn, credits off your program that way. So,
I need to take a note.
So, yeah, I mean, there's creative ways. I know GAs are, seem to be up and coming. And there might only be a couple on campus available, but hey, even if it's not something you like to do, you can do the job and get some free credits or the entire program paid for, depending on the policies of the college. So yeah, there's ways to do this and do it without going into an exorbitant amount of debt at the same time. Just talk to the right people. Again, consult with admissions, consult with financial aid, talk to other students in the program. Hey, what are you doing to afford this? Yeah, money can be a little hairy. Maybe not everyone's going to share everything, but you can get some pretty good insight that way.
Yeah, no, but again, it comes back to investment. So again, if it is something you need and it is or it is a lifelong goal and you really want to scratch that itch right now, then there might be some payments that you have to make out of pocket. And that then you want to consider, what can you make out of pocket? What can you do as a loan with a interest rate attached to it? And, for some people, it's 100% out of pocket. And so it's take that time and really consider if this is the moment for you, what can that look like? And just know that, degrees have an expiration time. So if you have not completed it by that catalog of time frame, then you are at jeopardy of losing some of those credit hours. So when you go to make that investment, consider your timeline as well, so you don't lose anything or have to retake anything. That's kind of a biggie.
On resources, one thing, I swear, I wish Pitt had this when I was an undergraduate student, because I needed it so bad. When I was on campus, the first thing that I saw was a whole bunch of different credit card companies, as you walked on campus, got me in a whole lot of trouble. But now there's financial wellness programs to be able to do. So I know we have one at Pitt too, where you can actually talk to them about what is this meaning for my financial investment and where is my money at and how am I going to work into this? So utilize those resources they're talking about that you have available to you as well.
I'm be cognizant of how much time we have, about 10 minutes left. So in the kind of spirit of just thinking about a general takeaway or tip or something that maybe as you wish you knew as a graduate student or as an admissions professional would like all students to maybe know or take away, is there, and it can be one thing, it can be one or two things, but anything that you would like to impart on anyone joining us that might be a tip, a recommendation that you're thinking about starting or going through the admissions process for graduate school, something either you wish you knew as a grad student or you would like to impart on a potential graduate student for them to think about as they go on this journey?
Well, you already covered that you wish you had financial wellness.
Absolutely, 100%. And that goes to resources that we've been talking about here, being able to do that research in resources, because I did not do that before. So doing your research, making sure that's the program for you, making sure you know your financial plan on how you're going to do it. What are your goals? Making sure I'm meeting those goals. So I would say you've started off very well by at least attending this panel to hear a little bit more about how to plan for grad school. So continue to do that research and continue to get that information for you, because yes, that was definitely one I needed for sure.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I think that, we just said it over and over again, is finding that fit. That you have to feel right in what you're pursuing. This, again, it's your investment. You need to love what you're studying and really feel comfortable with where you're studying, and know that you are going to feel supported and then be successful, right? Ultimately, we all want our alumni to leave and be happy recipients of their degrees and go tell all their friends. So like that starts at the beginning. That starts with asking the right questions to get you in the door. And then that continues with the support that we can provide for you as institutions. And then, the same with the connections that we want to continue to have with you as you graduate. We want to know what you're doing. Was it successful? Was it great? Are you super happy? Do you want to come back for another one? So, yeah, ask the questions that'll make you feel comfortable in your decision as well.
Yeah, I think we've come back to ask questions a lot, and I think that's like, ask the questions, do the research. I think from, I'll speak kind of personally, your journey doesn't have to be linear, doesn't have to go in a straight line. I am a career changer myself. And my educational background is not in what I'm pursuing now. And so that's okay. Like, you don't have to have it figured out. And I think that goes back to what so many have said already about just, if it's not the right time, it's okay. Just know what you want, what you are looking for, what you're passionate about, and yeah.
I would say with as many resources as we have out there these days, there's no reason to rush it. In the fact that like really focusing on doing your due diligence, I think is extremely important. Making sure you're checking all the boxes and you put a solid plan together to set yourself up for success. I guess I'll play the dad card and say, to go back to the financial side of things, and I'm only saying this because I recently got on one. The importance of a budget, honestly. I mean, when it comes to the financial side of things, you might be able to uncover a lot of extra money that's going to a certain category very quickly that you would be willing to sacrifice to take another graduate course or to take 2 graduate courses over the span of a year. So I would encourage you to explore, there's a ton of apps out there, super easy to use, super friendly to use. And that's not just for grad school. That will be a good life lesson to take you, the rest of the way. So I think, just trying to get as fiscally responsible that you can, keeping your costs down, keeping your out-of-pocket down, but identifying, areas that you're willing to give up, to sacrifice to potentially take on this type of graduate program, I think would be, a wise decision.
Wise words. Any other questions?
We had one other question.
Okay, cool.
And that was, if you can talk a little bit about if there's a difference between the process of applying for a master's degree versus a doctorate degree.
I mean, my favorite line, depends. Yes, because some doctorate degrees will require you to connect first with faculty and form that relationship. And know that they are willing to actually work with you too. And some doctoral degrees, it's fine. You can apply, it's kind of blanketed because you're going to be assigned different people to work with in different avenues. And some master's programs might have specific requirements for the bachelor's degree to come in to that master's or prerequisite courses. So yes, I know I'm missing other aspects here, but yes, sometimes there are differences to applying. And think about the competition. A lot of the times there are more seats and spaces for master's programs than advanced degrees beyond that. So it becomes limited space. And so the competition feels a little bit more steep. And that's when you're really playing into your A game. That means that sometimes you have to present papers as part of your application process and not just your personal goal statement. They're looking to see that academic work that can bring you to that next level, to bring you into that doc program.
I'll even add to what you just said too, about there may be some bachelor's program or bachelor's courses that you may need for masters, and there may be some master's courses or a master's degree that you may need to be able to do a doctoral level program. So it really does, as Kitty loves to say, depends. But it also, that goes back to that research to kind of see what is actually needed to see the difference there. I will say I definitely hark on faculty when it comes to doctoral level programs, just because there usually is a little bit more of a relationship with the faculty there, direct relationship, especially when it comes to research, if it's a research doctoral program. But yeah, definitely depends. It
Sorry, it's my favorite answer.
is, but it's so right though. It is.
Yes.
I have a question for you. I got some advice a number of years ago. I actually told it to my sister and she ended up getting her master's degree and PhD on this advice. Was that the more specific your interest is and that you're really, really interested in something really, really unique and specific, then people get excited, and if there's fire under your skin about one very specific topic, there's more resources available. You're all saying, ooh, there's not a lot of resources. Is this still true what they told me in 1995, or has the landscape changed that much that there just really isn't any? Cause they were telling us at that point that if you do have a very specific interest that's unique enough, sometimes that's the gates open at that point. And my sister wanted to do, she was interested in intercultural studies of Southeast Asia, and she ended up getting a government scholarship to learn Hindi. And I went with her to India when she did her dissertation in the north part of India to learn Hindi, because that was what she got a scholarship to do.
Wow. It has changed. It has. There are some privatized funds that want to invest in some specializations.
Okay,
But I think that government funding has changed recently. And that even though somebody might have a fire too light to find and get to the bottom of that, things are on hold. And so I think that if somebody really wants to make that investment, they might want to wait a few years and maybe approach it at another time. We're also we are literally talking at a time when the government is shut down, which
Right.
won't, that won't be that way forever.
as soon as I said that, I thought that was kind of.
No, it's not.
The concept that they told me at the time, but yeah, the landscape that we're in is science fiction right now, so. Like, who's the writer for the news program? I don't understand.
And it's also changed in that, like, more private money has become an investment and than federal funding. And so now it's a matter of like, who's private money and what is their interest to invest in that interest? And the landscape changes in that investment piece, federal versus private in higher education, probably every 50 years.
Okay,
And that sounds silly, but yes, so that swing from that time to this time, right? 95 to today is only 20 years. Yeah.
15, I think.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we're all math majors. But it is bound to swing again, because that's just the nature of how people are investing. I wanna make me younger than.
It's very serious, like what I said.
But no, that is a good point. That's a very good point. And yeah, a good point that you brought up too about like just seeing that change a little bit. I mean, I would never want to discourage the person who has like this great idea that really wants to do something to find it. It's just finding that, not saying that it's not available, but me finding it. And maybe instead of it being government funding, it may be private funding that may be interested in that topic area. But yeah.
I just remember hearing the advice that the more specific you're interested, then sometimes that's where the conversion happens, where someone says, wow, you're interested in that, we want someone who.
Yeah.
That can absolutely happen, yeah. I think that's a great question, because that opens up a lot of other
Yeah.
questions, but I know we only have 1 minute.
We have no other questions. I just want to thank you guys for your time, your expertise, your insight, your knowledge. And so I think Chad put in the chat that if there's any follow-up questions for any of our panelists, people can reach out via the
Correct.
email. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for everyone that joined us virtually and in person. We appreciate you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.